Ford Focus just stopped by. It's got codes for random misfires. So after looking at the scanner for a little while, I came out here and decided to see what's going on inside of here, and sure enough, you could see that already. And when you look inside, that looks like coolant. So yep, and this is just like that. I was not able to get it out, so someone's been here already. I'm gonna pull this one out and see. Yep, same thing. This one's actually oil. I came in for a few different things, pretty simple things. One of them was this thing right here is actually broken on the gas cap, and I know it's kind of annoying, so I ordered an OEM gas cap and it's already installed. Another thing is the glove box on these vehicles tend to just take a crap on you. So as you can see, little tabs right here don't want to come back out on this one, and he was actually using Velcro to hold it in place, but got tired of that because every time he hit a bump it would still open up. So I found a used one off of eBay, seems to work fine, and I installed that last night. And all I have to do is the rear brakes, and this one's done. Okay, so the customer brought back that Ford Focus, the one with the crazy misfire. Where to start? Let's see. Okay, so I got the ignition coils out, and as you saw in my previous video, this one was already torn, and you cannot buy these separate. So it looks like we're gonna be buying at least one ignition coil. The other ones came out just fine. This one's separated, but it's not broken or anything. It'll still pop right on. But for now, we need one ignition coil. Okay, so this one is full of oil. That's not an issue. It's going to get a brand new valve cover gasket set, and it's going to fix the leaks here. This one, I'm assuming this green stuff is just coolant, because this right here is a coolant temperature sensor, and it's the only way I could possibly think of coolant getting in here. The sensor's got to be bad, or the thread's got to be compromised, or something. Anyways, here's the coolant I sucked out of it. So again, with the Ford Focus, looking at the power balance test, you can see cylinder 2 we got a dead miss. So all I did was move over the coil to the next one, and it kind of followed, but not really. And the problem with that is the coil itself works fine. The problem we're having is the boot that connects the coil to the spark plug is supposed to be like this long, but it's only like this long, so a whole chunk of it is missing. Whoever was in here before, they kind of did all this. So anyways, what I did to try to remedy that and do a quick band-aid is I pushed that rubber boot all the way down onto the spark plug, and then I used a piece of hose and just cut maybe like 3/4 of an inch out, and I put it on top right here. So basically the spark is finding its own way to ground before it even gets to the spark plug. That's why we got a miss. But with the new power balance test, you could see it's running much better. Now occasionally we'll get the miss, you know, because obviously from what I did here, but it's running much better. We have to get an entire coil. It's the only way we're going to get a new boot. You cannot buy these boots separate, and unfortunately the customer just doesn't have the money right now. Okay, so last night I was watching one of Steve Rob's videos, and it was actually on a small heater, just like that one up there. So based off of his review, I went out and I bought one, and you could see this is the area that I work in, okay? The cars pull in, so I spent a lot of my time right here. It's an old garage, it's not insulated, and a lot of wind comes in, so I mean, it has other issues. But this right here, I see exactly what he's talking about, that it's not going to heat up your whole garage, and I didn't expect it to. But he was right. Definitely this whole area that I walk back and forth in, I could feel the heat. And, you know, I really am appreciative for his review, because it really was his review that made me go out and get one of these. And yeah, so far I'm satisfied with it. Back with this Chevy Aveo again, the one my neighbor just bought. Customer was driving and they lost their headlights. So this is what happened to the passenger side. So I obviously cut it off and soldered in a new connector, and it needed a new bulb because the bulb was also burnt out. This side, everything seemed okay, so no real issues with it. Just mainly that side. But as you can see, it's working now, so we're all done here. So we got a Chrysler 300 here, and it's similar to that Concorde that I just had here. It's essentially the same car, and same thing with this one. One outer tie rod, and then those inner bolts back there that connect the inner tie rod to the actual rack and pinion, I guess. They were loose, so there was a lot of play in them. So I just went inside of there, tightened up the 2 bolts, and kind of crunched those two little tabs down to prevent the bolts from coming out again. And you got one outer tie rod on the right side. So yeah, that's it for this one. Okay, so we got a Dodge Avenger here. The customer brought it over because intermittent heat loss and things like that. So I just tried adding some coolant because it was kind of low, and this is where we're at. Yep, that's not good. Let's see what it tastes like. It's kind of like vanilla, but not really. Not really. I'm more of a chocolate guy, so. Okay, so today's December 9th, and it's actually my birthday today. So, as you can see, I'm just a messy worker. No matter how clean I try to stay and organized, it always ends up the same exact way. So, 2 gifts that I got for my birthday today, which I think are pretty neat and useful. One of them is this magnetic tray, and you can just put it anywhere. You know, it just sticks with a magnet. It's got a pretty strong magnet on it too, so it's nice and sturdy. Put your screwdrivers or whatever here on the sides, and whatever you want in the center to hold. Another thing I got is this magnetic shop towel holder, which I thought is super cool because I always have these just thrown around, and then I'm always just looking for them. You know, I can never find them. So this is super neat. Obviously, you could adjust it to any size you need. But yeah, it's funny because my son saw this when I opened up the gift, and he thought it was so I could hold toilet paper out here in the garage. Anyway, yeah, two great gifts. I love them. This right here is exactly where the radiator's at. If you go straight down, there's no leaks here, okay? But you look further back, and there goes her leak. And that leak developed because I had my pressure tester on the cooling system. That's from those pictures I sent you. It's pretty much like from behind the engine. So it's 100% confirmed. There's nothing leaking from the job that I did. You know, and she doesn't want her car taken apart multiple times. I'm sorry, but cars need to be taken apart. I don't know about multiple times, but your car needs to be taken apart in order to get fixed. That's just the end of it. It doesn't matter where it goes. It's just crazy, these people nowadays. Here we have a Cadillac CTS, and it just needed a high and a low beam on the passenger side. Unfortunately, on these vehicles, you have to pull basically the bumper off, you know, so all this has to come off. Not the entire bumper, just like take the clips out of here, clips out of here, or pretty much everything from this side, and you get just enough space to take the headlight out and change the bulbs. So this one's all set, it's ready to go. We have a Trailblazer here that came in for tie rods. Now sometimes it's just faster to take it off at the knuckle and then take it off at the rack and pinion. And as far as the bellow, just go ahead and cut it. Well, don't cut the bellow, but cut the outer tie rod, and that way you could get the bellow off. Because honestly, you could spend so much time trying to fight to get this this jam nut off and just waste so much time. I like to use measuring as far as trying to get it as close as I can, so I take my measurement, you know, from a set location. But yeah, definitely save a lot of time. Just take it off at the rack and pinion, cut it, get your bellow off, and move forward. So yeah, just gonna go ahead and do the other side. Now while I was in here, I noticed that this truck also needs a few other things: upper control arm, upper ball joint, lower ball joint. So yep, so as you can see, it's pretty bad, and it was exactly the same way on the other side, which I already did. Okay, so it looks like someone previously tried to change the outer tie rod. I don't know if it's gonna pick up very well, but that jam nut is mangled up pretty good. Yep, this is why it's just best to change both of them at the same time. Here we have an 03 Tahoe, and the customer complaint is squealing noise while the engine is running. It's coming from the alternator. It's very slight. If you move it, you could hear like a little squeak. But you can imagine, you know, at higher speeds and with load on it, it gets amplified. So it still works, it still charges, but unfortunately because of the noise, we're gonna go ahead and change it. So that Ford Focus is back again, and right now I'm pretty much just sucking out the fluids that are stuck in the spark plug valley right here, just to get most of it out. Here's the valve cover, and I figure while I'm in here, I'm just gonna pull the spark plugs out just to inspect them. And it's a pretty straightforward job. Just put the new gaskets on. We got a new ignition coil. So here's the part I was talking about last time. So this is a coil that was misfiring. I don't know if it's pick up with the flash on, but that thing's pretty crusty up there. And here goes the other half, which yeah, so let's see how it turns out. Okay, so let's see if this will pick up. I took out all the spark plugs, and this one, let me see if I can turn the light on. Yeah, it's not helping at all. Anyways, this one looks like it right there. Right on the ceramic part, it looks like there's a small hairline crack right at the bottom. You can see that black spot. If I run my finger over it right here, it feels nice and rough. And it was pretty black before I cleaned it off. So, right there at that angle, you might be able to see the small crack right at the bottom. So I checked the other 3 spark plugs, and they look fine. But we're gonna go ahead and change this one. Alright, new gasket's a thing of beauty. Bad boy's ready to go back on. Be all set. It is pretty crazy. You know, I'm here with that Ford Focus again. Remember how we had what I assumed was coolant inside the spark plug area? But, you know, it didn't look like coolant. It definitely wasn't the color. So anyway, someone commented on my Facebook page, and they said check the windshield fluid, obviously on the hood. So I was like, that's a great idea. So I came out here and I checked it. I sprayed it from the inside, and sure enough, it just showers over everything. So I come and look at the connection, and it was sitting just like this. That's why I never really noticed anything that stands out. But if you just gave it a little yank, so the little black piece inside of there is actually broken off. It looked like someone replaced this part already, but instead of trying to get the old broken piece out of it, they just kind of forced it on there, which obviously isn't gonna work. It's crazy. I completely overlooked that. Okay, so I did get that part off of the car, even though it was a pain in the butt, and it was this piece right here. So there was actually a hairline crack in this plastic, and it was misting out the coolant right here. And of course, the second you go to touch it to try to remove it, it just snaps because it's so brittle. But yep, it's funny because customer loves to blame people. Customers in general love to blame the person who worked on their car. Said, oh, you know, you did this, you were in there last. But really, no, it has nothing to do with the first job I did. They're not even kind of in the same area, but it was, let's just say, around the corner. So no, I had nothing to do with this. Let's just say you got an old car like this, right? And you're slowly seeping antifreeze out of different locations. Well, if you start fixing one leak at a time, basically the system could build up more and more pressure. So those other places that were slowly seeping out coolant are now more vulnerable because more pressure. Because fuel doors are overrated. Go ahead and just leave it exactly how the customer had it. Just something like that. Good enough. So here we have a PT Cruiser, and it's here because of overheating issues. And the problem we have here is someone was already in here before to change the starter, so they had to take all of this apart. As you can see, I've already begun here. I got the intake tube and intake manifold off already. But I got my pressure tester here on the cooling system, and let's see if I can get this. Yep. So pretty easy find right here. So we're gonna see what's going on here. Definitely should not have put this style clamp right here. I really don't like these. But yep, that's what we're here for. It's losing all the coolant right here. Okay, so here's where we're at. As you can see, it's holding pressure now. The problem is, okay, I have a little bit of RTV silicone in here, and this is the type that's made for antifreeze, so that's okay. I mean, you know, I'm just trying to test things here. Basically, I changed the type of clamp that's on here. It's not the screw-in type. But the problem I'm having is when I put the clamp in its original location, it won't seal. It still leaks out of here because the hose itself is like mushroomed out. But when I put the clamp at the very edge, it actually seals. But I feel kind of sketchy about that, and I definitely don't want this to be a comeback. So the customer did bring me the new part. The problem is they really are reluctant for me to put it on here. It was a just in case matter, but because they don't have a lot of money and they're trying to, this is a $30 hose. So, but I think to cover my butt and it's not a comeback, I'm gonna go ahead and put the hose on it. You know, it needs it. I don't feel right about it. Okay, so the new hose is installed. No silicone or anything, just a regular hose, and it's new clamp on it. As you can see, we're holding pressure. Everything's nice and clean. This is what I like to see. No hacking stuff or anything like that, like the last guy that was in here. He slapped silicone everywhere, even places where there should be gaskets. But this is fixed. I feel much better about putting this new part in rather than trying to make the old one work. And that's it for this one. Okay, so one final update on this PT Cruiser. It's been running for a while. Even with my foot on the throttle, it's taking forever to get up to operating temperature. And the reason for that is because the fans are on constantly. The reason for that is because the guy who originally went in there to change the starter and caused that leak at the upper radiator hose, the car started to overheat. So when she brought the car back to him, instead of fixing the problem, he decided to jerry-rig the fans on the radiator to run all the time. So instead of fixing a problem, you create other problems to try to remedy it, and it's so stupid. So what I did in the meantime, I went in a fuse box and I pulled the fuse for the fans so they don't turn on. I want to get the car up to operating temperature and make sure everything's okay, and then I'll pop that fuse back in. It's funny because you could tell someone was meddling around inside of there